In my past life, I trapped Isabella Bella Sinclair for a lifetime with a marriage contract. Until the day she died, she could not be with her unattainable first love. It wasn't until the car crash that I realized with a shock I had been trapped for a lifetime too. After being reborn, I finally decided to let go of Bella and to let go of myself. Without me as an obstacle in this life, she would be able to be with the one she truly loved. That way, she wouldn't have to live with lifelong regrets, right? Reborn, I decided to make way for Bella. In the year I turned 50, Bella, who was 55, committed suicide without warning. That morning, she had eaten breakfast with me as usual. She even praised my newly developed shredded chicken and pea porridge, saying it tasted excellent, and ate 2 bowls in one go. But in the afternoon, when I returned from grocery shopping, I found her lying in bed, no longer breathing. On the table beside her lay an empty box of sleeping pills. Bella had been a doctor for decades, a master surgeon who had received countless commendatory banners. Doubtless, finding a channel to obtain some sleeping pills wasn't difficult for her. The dosage was considerable, leaving no room for resuscitation. Amidst grief and confusion, I completed her funeral arrangements. When I entered her study, the room she had never allowed me into, to sort through her effects, I discovered the secret she had hidden for a lifetime. It turned out Bella had once deeply loved someone. It was someone she admired during her university years, a boy named Theo Dawson. That morning, she had received news of Theo's death and chose to end her own life. She sacrificed her life to mourn her loved. In her drawer, I found a photograph of Theo, dressed in a dark gray suit. He stood under the shade of a tree on campus. Handsome and dashing, he was very good-looking and possessed a scholarly air, a temperament similar to Bella's. It was something I lacked, and the source of my inferiority complex for decades. The photo was old but exceptionally well preserved, a testament to how much its owner cherished it. Besides the photo, I found a large box of unsent letters. Over the past decades, Bella had written to Theo from time to time, using it to alleviate her longing, but fearing it would disrupt Theo's life. None of these letters were ever sent. I cannot describe the state of mind I was in as I sat there, hands trembling, opening letter after letter that I read on masochistically, from dusk till dawn, through the entire night without sleep. Within the dense lines of text, I read about a completely different Bella. In my impression, Bella was aloof, sometimes not speaking to me for an entire day. I thought she was inherently introverted and had grown accustomed to it over the years. But the person who wrote these letters had a fiery heart and abundant emotions. Her scorching affection almost overflowed from the words on the page. I never knew Bella possessed such a strong desire for expression and sharing. Every major and minor event in her life, she would write to tell Theo. Her nervousness the night before her first surgery, her first promotion and raise, the first time she received a commendatory banner, being scolded by an ill-tempered patient, eating the mutton stew with flatbread she craved during a business trip, her head aching from illness. She never told me about any of these things. Even when I brought them up, she would gloss over them, showing no desire to share. I remember when she got her first promotion, I prepared a feast at home to celebrate. She didn't come home until after 10 that night, ignored the table full of food, told me she had already celebrated with colleagues, and went to wash up. Another time, she was scolded by a patient and came home in a bad mood, locking herself in her study immediately. I didn't know why she was upset. I only found out what happened after asking her colleague. When I asked her why she didn't tell me, she coldly said, "What good would telling you do? What help could you be? Do you understand how a hospital works?" Sensitive and insecure by nature, I was rendered speechless. Among those letters, I also found a few tied exquisitely with ribbon. Opening them, I saw they were the few letters Theo had written to her. It turned out they had reconnected over a decade ago. That year, on a business trip to the South, someone organized an alumni reunion where they met again. Bella learned that Theo's life hadn't been going well. He had married the daughter of a big business owner and indeed lived a prosperous life for a few years. But later, his wife developed a gambling addiction and lost everything. Hearing about his plight, Bella was heartbroken. The very next day, she went to the bank and transferred 50,000 yuan to him. From then on, the letters she wrote expressing her longing were not all sealed away as before. Instead, she occasionally actually mailed a few, and along with them, she sent money orders. For over a decade, Bella had been intermittently supporting Theo's life. 8 years ago, Bella wanted to sell the old house we used to live in. She said a friend in pharmaceutical R&D had a promising new project that needed investment. She planned to invest all the money from the house sale into this project. When I tried to ask more questions, she shot me that disdainful look I feared and said, "Why ask? You wouldn't understand anyway," successfully shutting me down. Later, over a year afterward, I happened to remember and asked her if the project was completed. She impatiently said, "Pharmaceutical projects take years. It's not that fast." I never asked again. From Theo's reply to her, I learned the true destination of that money. 8 years ago, Theo's son was going abroad to study. He called her, weeping about his difficulties. Bella decided to sell the old house and sent all the proceeds to Theo to fund his son's education abroad. Theo handwritten a long letter thanking her, his words full of regret for the past. In an age where mobile phones were already ubiquitous, they still corresponded via handwritten letters, using this unique method to cherish their past feelings. How romantic if it were just these letters, revealing that Bella had a true love. It would only have been heartache for me. After all, her coldness towards me over the decades had long worn away the intense love I once felt for her. Now, my feelings for her had turned into a plain, familial affection that I no longer cared about love or not. What truly shocked me was a surgical consent form belonging to Bella. Shortly before we married, she had actually undergone a tubal ligation surgery. After enduring a series of blows, I was able to face Bella's lawyer and her will with a sense of calm. When I heard she had left her entire share of the estate to Theodore's son, I couldn't even muster a cold smile. I politely saw the lawyer out and went downstairs to buy groceries. Bella was dead, but I still had to live my life well. She had left a considerable fortune to Theodore's son, but as her husband of decades, I would receive my rightful portion. That money was enough for me to live out my remaining years in comfort. I was only 50. If I stayed healthy, I could still live for many years. I needed to plan carefully how to spend the rest of my days, but accidents are always so sudden and unforeseen. While crossing the street, a car driving the wrong way lost control and came barreling towards me. In my final moments of consciousness, I saw my own body flung into the air. I woke up again, and the mirror reflected the youthful face of my 15-year-old self. I was overjoyed to discover I had been reborn. Just as I stepped outside, I ran into Auntie Evelyn, Bella's mother, who had just entered the yard. "Jaden, are your things all packed? Auntie is here to help you move them," she said. It was only then I realized what timeline I was in. I hated myself for not coming back 2 months earlier. Perhaps then I could have prevented my father's death. 2 months prior, my father was working at the mine when he saw a massive boulder rolling down. He pushed the person next to him out of the way. That person survived by a stroke of luck, but my father was struck by the rock and died instantly. The man my father saved was Bella's father. My mother died in childbirth, so I was raised by my father alone. After his death, I had no family left. As the son of their benefactor, Bella's parents were very kind to me, often giving me food and clothes. They even promised Bella to me in marriage, the only university student from our village, the pride of the entire community. At the time, I was utterly willing because Bella was beautiful, elegant, and educated. There wasn't a boy in the village who didn't like her. When she came home on holiday, there were always young men lurking outside her house, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. After I agreed to the marriage arrangement with the family, the well-meaning Auntie Evelyn suggested I move into their home. She told me that once Bella returned for summer break, we would get married. In my past life, I followed their arrangements, moved into the house, and smoothly married Bella. Although she didn't smile once throughout the entire wedding, I simply thought she had a cold personality. Now, with a second chance, I didn't want to go through that again. "Auntie Evelyn," I said, "I've thought it over, and I'd prefer not to move in. But we agreed before, Auntie Evelyn said, surprised. Besides, your family just held a funeral. Aren't you afraid living here alone? I gave a light laugh. The deceased is my father, the person who loved me most. How could I be afraid of him? I continued calmly. And, Auntie, let's call off the engagement with Bella. I'm still young and in no hurry to marry. Besides, Bella is so outstanding. She might already have a boyfriend at university. She doesn't, Auntie Evelyn stated with certainty. Last month I wrote to her, told her about the engagement. She wrote back. She didn't refuse, and she didn't say she had a boyfriend either. Auntie had already told her. So early. I never understood why, if she loved Theodore, she didn't refuse the engagement with me. There were many ways to repay a debt of gratitude. Surely someone as clever as her could have found a solution that satisfied everyone. Was this sense of duty to repay the debt more important than the person she loved? Why would she rather give up her love and marry me? Regardless of her reasons, I would not marry her again. I blinked my innocent eyes and said to Auntie Evelyn, I don't want to get married yet. Bella is 5 years older than me. I've always seen her as an older sister. Auntie Evelyn patted my head. You're right, Jaden is still a child. It is too early to talk about marriage. In my past life, Auntie Evelyn had always been quite good to me. She and Uncle Samuel were honest people who felt they owed my father a life and wanted to repay me with the best they had. Their daughter was their greatest pride. By having me marry Bella, they believed I would be set for life. Their intentions were genuinely good. But what they didn't know was that feelings cannot be forced. Bella valued filial duty and, because of her family's debt to my father, silently shouldered the responsibility of me. For my sake, she gave up the boy she loved. She must have felt a deep resentment deep down. In this life, I didn't want to be an obstacle in her emotional life anymore. This way, she wouldn't have to live with lifelong regrets. As for me, I would live my own life well. Child, Auntie Evelyn said gently, if you can't be my son-in-law, then be my son. You're only 15 with no adults at home. From now on, consider your Uncle Samuel and me your parents. Okay, thank you, Auntie, I said. What are your plans for the future? She asked. I want to study, I said, looking at her with determination to end this era. Not long after the college entrance exams were reinstated, almost no one in the countryside pursued education. In several villages around ours, Bella was the only university student to emerge in recent years that in my past life. Influenced by my environment and family circumstances, I initially thought like most village children. Finishing junior high and being literate was enough. When the time came, find a good person to marry, then busy myself with family and children. That's how a lifetime would pass. It was mundane, but that's how most people around me lived. But later, after decades of living with Bella and witnessing society's development, I understood the importance of knowledge and education. I could sense Bella looked down on me for my lack of education. She never took me to meet her colleagues or friends. She never invited anyone to our home. Seeing those who were educated with respectable jobs, I felt envious. I wanted to be like them, presentable, able to earn a living. But back then, being able to marry Bella, someone I liked and the most outstanding person I knew, made me happy and full of expectation. Even though my love for her faded over the years in that marriage, I held no bitterness. Being able to live an ordinary life was a blessing. One can't have everything in life. It wasn't until I understood her resentment that things changed. I asked Auntie Evelyn to lend me Bella's old textbooks, and she generously brought over all of her books. I looked through them. The materials and test papers were quite dated, with nothing from the last 2 or 3 years. The best bookstore was in the provincial capital. I decided to make a trip to buy the latest materials. Travel restrictions had eased in the last couple of years. I just needed a letter of introduction from the village chief. Auntie Evelyn intervened personally and helped me sort it out. She also gave me a large package of things to deliver to Bella. Her university was in the provincial capital. I entered the university campus and, after asking for directions, made my way to Bella's dormitory. From a distance, I could see a sizable crowd gathered. As I got closer, I saw the 2 people at the center of the attention. It was Isabella, Bella Sinclair, and Theodore Theo Dawson. Theo, dressed in a suit, looking scholarly and handsome, was boldly holding out a bouquet of flowers to the bright and beautiful girl before him, confessing his feelings. So, a guy could openly confess to the girl he liked like this. Seeing Theo, I felt nothing but envy. I envied his confidence, his self-assurance, his courage. Isabella, I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? Theo said. People around them whispered, wow. The heartthrob of the Chinese department is confessing to the talented beauty from the medical faculty. Such a perfect match, a couple made in heaven. So, even during their university days, they were considered a perfect match by everyone. As the one who had torn them apart in my past life, no wonder Bella had always treated me with cold disdain. I'm sorry, Theodore, I can't accept. A cool, magnetic voice spoke, stunning everyone. Bella had actually refused. She had turned down the department heartthrob. A classmate couldn't help exclaiming in surprise. The light in Theo's eyes dimmed instantly. Why? He asked, his tone full of loss. Is there something not good enough about me? No, Theodore, you are very good, Bella said with a bitter smile, shaking her head. But I can't be with you because back in my hometown, Sis Bella, I suddenly shouted loudly, cutting off her next words. I understood now. In the past life, this was how Bella had rejected Theo, by saying she had a fiancé back home. Theo had left in dismay. She later returned home and married me, never able to let him go for the rest of her life. In this life, I never wanted to be the original sin that broke up this pair of lovebirds again. The two at the center of the topic turned to look at me simultaneously. Bella looked both surprised and flustered, frowning as she asked, Jaden, what are you doing here? Who is he? Theo asked, staring at me blankly that I gave him a friendly smile. Hello, big brother. My name is Jaden Carter. I'm Bella's younger brother. Younger brother? Why the different surname? A cousin. Theo's tone carried a hint of challenge. I'm the adopted son of Bella's parents. Our families live close by. We grew up together. In my eyes, she's just like my own blood sister. After I firmly refused the marriage arrangement, Auntie Evelyn had indeed suggested adopting me as her son and even talked about picking a day for a banquet to make it official. Hearing this, the hostility in Theo's eyes noticeably lessened. You look quite young. How old are you this year? He even managed to squeeze out a smile. 15, I said, trying my best to act like an innocent child. 5 years younger than us. Still a kid, he said, this time laughing genuinely. Jaden, what are you? Bella interrupted our conversation. Oh, I came here to buy study materials. Auntie Evelyn asked me to bring you this. I handed her the package I was carrying. She took it. Study materials? You want to study? I said loudly. I want to test into university. Because there were quite a few onlookers around, all watching with curious eyes, Bella, not wanting to be the subject of further discussion, put the package in her dorm and hurriedly led Theo and me away from the center of the crowd. As we walked, I kept chattering nonstop. Brother Theo, were you just confessing to Sis Bella? For my sister to have a handsome guy like you confessing to her, she's so lucky. But, Sis Bella, why did you reject Brother Theo? How could you bear to? How could you have the heart? Bella looked at me, momentarily speechless. Theo, reacting to being rejected, became persistent. He tugged on Bella's sleeve. Yes, why did you reject me? If you don't make it clear today, I won't let this go. Suddenly, he had an epiphany. It couldn't be like in those novels, could it? Do you have some sort of arranged husband back in the countryside? Bella paused guiltily, glanced at me, and seemed to hesitate to speak. How could that be? I answered him. Sis Bella and I are from the same village. If she had an arranged husband, would I not know? This time when I came to the city, Auntie Evelyn even asked me to find out if Sis Bella had a boyfriend at university. She said Sis Bella is introverted, never tells the family anything, and she was really curious. Really? Theo was happy again. He asked her, then why did you reject me? Where am I not good enough for you? Bella sighed. It's not you. It's me who's not good enough for you, Theodore. You grew up in the city. Both your parents are workers with a good family situation. I grew up in the countryside. My family is poor. Your parents would definitely look down on me. As long as I think you're good enough, that's all that matters. Why care about them? Theo said, genuinely happy now. So that's why you rejected me? What do you have to be insecure about? You have great grades, you're beautiful, you're your teacher's star student. After you graduate, you can stay in the city to become a doctor. You have a bright future ahead of you. That's for the future. But right now Bella's tone was wistful. I don't care. That excuse doesn't convince me, Theo said, staring at her. I'll ask one more time. I like you, Isabella Sinclair. Will you be my girlfriend? If you reject me again, I'll go find a new girlfriend tomorrow. You know, plenty of girls like me. I'll pick the most outstanding one and start dating her immediately. Faced with Theo's aggressive persuasion, Bella finally gave in. Okay, let's be together. Theo raised an eyebrow. So reluctant? Do you even like me? Bella nodded hurriedly. I like you, of course I like you. Who wouldn't like you? Theo was amused. He intimately linked his arm with hers, letting her lean her head on his shoulder. Little brother Jaden, you've come a long way. Let big brother treat you to a good meal in the cafeteria. Perhaps in extremely high spirits, Theo was very generous and bought me the two most expensive dishes in the cafeteria. After the meal, Bella saw me off to buy materials. Theo wanted to come too, but he had class in the afternoon. Bella said to him sternly, no skipping class. He could only obediently go back to class. In the bookstore, I sincerely asked Bella for advice. Sis, you have experience. Please help me pick the most useful materials. After picking out the materials, on the way to the station, she seemed to want to say something several times, but stopped herself. Finally, as I was about to board the bus, she spoke up. Jaden, well, have my parents mentioned anything to you about the two of us? I mean, are you talking about the marriage arrangement? I said with a carefree laugh. Sis, I'm only 15. I don't want to get married now. I just want to study. But your father saved my father. Such a great debt of gratitude must be repaid. Then just tutor me more on my schoolwork. Help me get into university. That would be repaying the debt, I said, looking up at her with sincere eyes. You don't want to marry me. Is it because you have a girl you like? She suddenly asked. I pretended to be naive. Like who? What is like? Why would I need to like a girl? Bella looked at me, her tone becoming relieved. You're right. You haven't grown up yet. How would you know what like is? She patted me on the head as if I were a child. Go back and study hard. If there's anything you don't understand, you can write to me. Okay, I said. Standing at the bus door, I turned back and waved at her. Goodbye, sis. I studied junior high school curriculum on my own at home for half a year. Auntie Evelyn asked the village chief for help, allowing me to register for the entrance exam of the town's junior high school. I successfully tested into a high school in the city. For all 3 years of high school, I lived on campus, squeezing out every minute for studying. I even read textbooks while eating meals. Perhaps because I kept calling her sis, Bella eventually accepted me in the role of her younger brother. She was much more warm and helpful towards me than in my past life. Despite her busy schedule as a medical student and her time spent dating Theo, she still found time to write me letters frequently, asking how I was doing. Every time I wrote back, it was to ask about academic problems. Back in the day, Bella, through her own hard work, had become the only university student from our village in years and was quite liked by her professors at university. It was clear she had real academic ability. It would be a waste not to use such a resource. She patiently answered every one of my questions and often sent me the latest study materials. 3 years later, I achieved an outstanding score on the college entrance exams, ranking 5th in the entire city. When Bella found out, she specifically came home to congratulate me. She suggested I apply to her university. Our school is also a key university, Jaden. If you come here, you'll have me, your sister, to look out for you. I had never quite gotten used to Bella's kindness and affection in this life. I tactfully declined. Sis, I haven't really decided which school to apply to yet. What's there to think about? Listen to your sister. She's right, she insisted. Let Jaden go wherever he wants. Why are you interfering? Auntie Evelyn said, pushing her aside. Mom, you don't understand, Bella said, not giving up, trying to continue persuading me. As if you understand everything. Auntie Evelyn retorted, rolling her eyes. Do you understand more than his teachers? Jaden, ask your teachers for their opinion. See what they recommend. Okay, Auntie Evelyn, I said with a smile and a nod. Auntie Evelyn dragged the reluctant Bella away, muttering under her breath. Can't you see Jaden doesn't want to go to your school? You have no tact. His teacher already said with such a high score, he has many universities to choose from. I didn't understand why Bella was so insistent on me going to her university. But in this life, I had my own plans. I applied to the National Defense University in the capital city. I only told everyone after I had submitted my application. Auntie Evelyn and Uncle Samuel were thrilled for me, their faces full of pride. The National Defense University. So you'll be working for the country after graduation, right? Our Jaden is so amazing. Only Bella seemed expressionless, looking sullen and unhappy. During my 3rd year of university, Bella and Theo got married. Using money I had saved from my part-time tutoring job, I gave them a large red envelope as a gift. I also wrote a congratulatory card, wishing my sister and brother-in-law a joyful marriage and a long life together. In my 1st year of graduate school, I started dating. The person was my academic advisor's daughter, who was also my senior at the same university, pursuing her postgraduate degree. Once, when I went to my advisor's office to deliver some materials, she was there too and witnessed me debating a topic with my advisor in a calm and orderly manner. After that, she began persistently pursuing me. At the time, I was completely focused on my studies and rejected her countless times. But she became more determined with each rejection. No matter how harsh my words were, she would face them with a smile. She was outstanding in every way, and her wholehearted affection for me was something I couldn't resist. I was eventually won over. I asked her when she started liking me. She said it was love at first sight. I shook my head, not believing her. She then said, "Really, I'm a shallow person. The first time I saw you, I was captivated by your good looks. Right after that, seeing you debate with my dad, I was utterly impressed. You spoke gently but without fear, reasoned logically, and even managed to convince your own advisor. It was amazing. I've never met a guy who radiates charm both inside and out like you do." My relationship with Chloe Grant proceeded smoothly and felt wonderful. Even though we weren't in the same major, we often shared the difficulties and achievements we encountered in our studies. I'm the quiet type, while she is humorous and witty, great at providing emotional support, and often made me laugh. We respected each other, encouraged one another, and even planned our future together. In my past life, aside from Bella, I had never been with any other woman. With her, it seemed like there was no courtship process. We just got married directly and then faced all the trivial matters of married life. It wasn't until now, being with Chloe, that I understood what a healthy romantic relationship should be. It turns out that reciprocated love is truly beautiful and enjoyable. After working for a year, Chloe and I got married. On the day of the wedding, I invited Auntie Evelyn and Uncle Samuel to attend. Out of courtesy, I also sent invitations to Bella and Theo. Truthfully, I didn't want them to come. We hadn't seen each other in years as we lived and studied in different cities. I hoped our relationship would fade over time until we became strangers. Moreover, Bella was newly pregnant when I got married. I specifically called Bella and said, "Sis, traveling long distances isn't good for your condition. It's totally fine if you can't make it. I understand." But on the wedding day, they still came. Bella gave me a small box as a wedding gift. I accepted it hurriedly without opening it immediately. After the ceremony, I went to change into my reception attire. Passing through the hotel corridor, I heard an argument in the stairwell. "If I hadn't seen the receipt in your bag just now, I wouldn't have known you actually bought Jaden Carter a car. You're so generous. I'm your husband. Why didn't you buy me a car?" It was Theo's voice that I froze, remembering the small box Bella had handed me that morning. I immediately took it out of my bag and opened it. Inside was a car key. A memory from 2 months ago surfaced. Bella, whom I hadn't been in touch with for ages, suddenly called me. She said she'd heard from her mom that I was getting married and asked for the exact date. I made polite conversation with her for a bit. She asked what I was up to, and I said I was practicing driving, trying to get my driver's license before the wedding since I'd be too busy later. But was she crazy? Why would she buy me a car? Let alone in this era. Even in the future, rarely would anyone give a car as a gift. It's such a major item. I in the stairwell. Bella's voice rang out. Jaden is my brother. He spent a lot of money on my parents over the years. As his sister, what's wrong with me giving him a car? I don't even have a car yet. What right do you have to give him one? You can't even pass the driver's test. What do you need a car for? I don't care. If you don't get that car back, I'm not done with you. How have you become so mercenary now? I slowed my pace and walked past quietly. I remembered back in my past life, when Bella first bought a car, I also wanted to get a driver's license. You'd better not go. With your junior high education level, you'll definitely fail. Don't waste your time. Her few simple words snuffed out the flicker of courage I had mustered. I didn't understand Bella. It seemed like she was always particularly harsh towards the people closest to her. Her husband, in my past life. She gave me a cold shoulder for a lifetime, yet showered Theo Dawson, who was miles away, with all sorts of care. She never bought me a single piece of clothing throughout the year. Yet when Theo mentioned in a letter that the winter was particularly cold, she specifically went up north to buy a down jacket and mailed it to him. In this life, she married the Theo she loved, but it seemed she wasn't much better to him either. Knowing full well he was trying to get his driver's license, she discouraged him, saying he'd fail, and chose to buy me, her nominal brother, a car instead of him. I truly don't understand her thought process. After the wedding, as we were seeing them off, I seized the moment to take out that small box and stuff it into Theo's hand. Brother-in-law, I just found out Sis Bella gave me such an expensive gift. I appreciate the sentiment, but I really can't accept this. Without giving them a chance to react, I immediately turned and ran. After marriage, my life with Chloe Grant was warm and peaceful. Work was busy, but we always made time to eat together, go on dates, and travel. Since my career was on the rise, I discussed with Chloe about not having children for the next couple of years, and she respected my decision. However, our tranquil life was disrupted by the appearance of one person. I don't know what wire snapped in Bella's head, but she actually requested a transfer to the capital city. All her accumulated experience and professional network were at her original hospital. Staying there, she would have had a bright future, just like in her past life. Although the capital offered a better overall environment, starting here meant almost beginning from scratch. There were more opportunities, but also more talent, making it harder to stand out. Her parents scolded her, her husband objected, and they had a newborn at home. None of it could dissuade her from her decision. So, when I saw Bella standing at my doorstep, I was stunned. Not only had she transferred to the capital, starting everything over, but she had also quietly rented an apartment right across from ours. From then on, she became a frequent presence in our lives. On weekends, when Chloe and I wanted to enjoy some time alone, she would show up at our door with marinated dishes and beer, saying she wanted to have dinner with us. When her friends visited the capital, she would invite us along to the meals she hosted. She even insisted on giving us the fruit and milk her hospital distributed during holidays. Out of courtesy, we had to entertain her, and it became incredibly tiresome. Suddenly, one day, Chloe said to me, "Let's sell the house and move." I was inwardly delighted. Great minds think alike. But on the surface, I still asked, "Why? Don't you like it here?" This was our marital home. We picked the location together. The neighborhood is nice, and it's close to both our workplaces. The properties here were highly sought after. We had to pull strings to even get a chance to buy one. Chloe hesitated before saying, "I think that sister of yours, Bella Sinclair, has impure intentions towards you." I was shocked. That's impossible. Although we both wanted to move because of the same person, our reasons were different. I just found Bella annoying and wanted to distance ourselves. Was Chloe overthinking it? How could Bella have those kinds of feelings for me? In my past life, I was married to her for decades. I knew full well she looked down on and despised me from the bottom of her heart. Chloe snorted coldly. "As a woman, I can tell. You're my husband. The way she looks at you is exactly how I used to look at you." My heart sank. "No way, haven't you noticed?" The fruits she brings over are all your favorites. Kiwis, mangoes. Those are expensive, and she just shows up with a whole case. And last time, the motion sensor light in the hallway broke, and you sprained your ankle walking upstairs. The next day, I went to get a repairman, but I saw her there with a ladder, checking the wiring. Hearing this, it did seem to carry that kind of implication. I got goosebumps all over. She definitely has ill intentions towards you. I don't dare let her hover around you anymore, Chloe said firmly. Then, let's sell the house quickly, I said. I've already listed it with an agent, she said. That project I invested in with friends last year has made a good profit recently. I plan to buy a villa, standalone. She can forget about moving next to us again. Chloe gritted her teeth. You don't blame me, I asked tentatively. She pulled me into a hug. An outstanding man attracts attention. It's normal. It's not like you actively provoked her. Why would I blame you? The blame lies solely with Bella Sinclair for lacking morals and boundaries. We moved away as fast as we could. After that, I always found excuses to avoid meeting Bella. Months later, Chloe and I were having dinner at home when the doorbell rang. Chloe was pouring me a drink, so I got up to answer it. As soon as I opened the door, Theo was standing outside. Brother-in-law, I started to say, but a slap came flying towards my face. Luckily, I reacted quickly and dodged it. Hearing the commotion, Chloe rushed over and pulled me behind her. Jaden Carter, you scum. Seducing your own sister. How can you be so shameless? Theo picked up a cardboard box at his feet and threw it at me hatefully. Chloe shielded me and warned him, watch your language. Brother-in-law, I have never done anything inappropriate with Sis Bella, I said calmly. Theo cried, kneeling on the floor, looking wretched, his voice hoarse. Yes, you know nothing. You're innocent. But your sister wants a divorce. I came to try and win her back, but I found those letters. She has a crush on you. All these years, the person she likes is you. How ridiculous. You're pure as snow, but who do I go to for justice? Who else can I turn to but you? By the end, he was almost shouting. Following where he pointed, I saw the cardboard box he had thrown and the dalang, large number of envelopes scattered on the floor. A familiar scene rushed into my mind. I crouched down, hands trembling, and picked up one of the envelopes. Each one was addressed to Jaden Carter. I opened a letter, unfolded the paper, and the lines of text inside made my whole body shudder. Just like in the previous life, the pages were filled with Bella's scorching affection. Only the object of her admiration had changed from Theo in the last life to me in this one. But how absurd. The plot had been altered, but Bella's psychological journey remained unchanged. She simply didn't love her husband. She had to love the one she couldn't have. In the letters, she poured out her regrets. She said that she and I were originally engaged. If only she hadn't met Theo, she could have quietly finished university and waited for me to grow up. In the letters, she complained about Theo's vulgarity and mercenary nature. She said he used to be so handsome and noble, but after marriage, he became aimless, unwilling to continue studying or to work. In her letters, she described Theo as someone who only knew how to spend money, go shopping, and buy clothes all day long. She said he had wasted his university education, showing no ambition whatsoever. The topics she wanted to discuss, he couldn't understand. They had long lost any common ground. She also wrote that I was different, smart, hardworking, got into a top university on my own merit, and had drive in my career. In those letters, she repeatedly described how much she regretted her choices. Over and over, she said how much better it would have been if she had married me instead. We were born and raised in the same place. We both went to university. Our minds would definitely be in sync. We would have so much to talk about, she lamented. She sighed with regret that we were meant to be the most compatible partners, but had missed our chance. After hastily skimming through a few letters, I laughed in anger. In my past life, I had read the exact same words in the letters she wrote to Theo. Back then, she said she and Theo were the most compatible partners, who had tragically missed their chance. Theo, what madness is this? Bella rushed over, pulling the sobbing man up from the floor. Heh, to indulge your own unspeakable desires, you abandoned your husband and child. You left your home to desperately linger by someone else's side, Theo sneered coldly. But that person is your so-called brother. He has a wife, Isabella Sinclair. Wake up. Shut up. The moment Theo started speaking, Bella panicked and tried to cover his mouth. But it was useless. Theo struggled and managed to say it all. Jaden, I. Bella looked at me in panic, wanting to explain but not knowing how to begin. She was flushed with shame. Dare to love, but not dare to admit it, Theo said with a vicious expression. You know how despicable your thoughts are, don't you? Too late. Those disgusting letters you wrote. Your brother has read them. Haha. Do you still have the courage to face him now? Only then did Bella notice the envelopes scattered all over the floor. Her face instantly turned deathly pale. She then frantically threw herself onto the ground, scrambling to stuff all the letters back into the cardboard box in a panic. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably. Finally, when all the letters were packed, she grabbed the box, stumbled to her feet, and ran off. The entire time, she didn't dare to look me in the eye. After that, I never saw Bella again. I heard she had left the capital but hadn't returned to her hometown. No one knew where she had gone. A year later, Auntie Evelyn called me. She first called my name, then fell silent for a long time, as if hesitating about how to begin. Auntie, what's the matter? You can tell me, I said gently, as always. I wanted nothing to do with Bella, but Auntie Evelyn had never harmed me. I could separate the two. Jaden, can you come see Bella? She's holding on by a thread, and she keeps calling your name, Auntie Evelyn pleaded. Bella had been in a car accident and was fading fast. Unable to refuse Auntie Evelyn's desperate plea, I took a flight that very night. In the hospital room, Bella was covered in tubes. When she saw me, she managed a weak smile with great difficulty. Jaden, I'm sorry. I held you back for decades. I was stunned. Bella had also come back. I stood by the head of her bed, looked at her quietly for a moment, and then suddenly laughed. You know, when I read those letters you wrote me, I was stunned. How were they any different from the ones you wrote to Theo in our past life? In them, you said how wonderful it would have been to marry me, that you would have had no regrets then. But now you know, in that past life, we did get married. And what was the result? You still lived with lifelong regrets. You never got over not being with Theo. And because I married you, I never got past a junior high education. In this life, freed from you, I went to university, and both my career and love life are successful. Bella, in our past life, you held me back. In our previous life, after we married, I did want to study on my own, maybe go to night school, to improve myself. But then your family had a crisis. Your father met with misfortune again. He drowned while helping someone fish. Your mother was devastated, fell ill, and became partially paralyzed. I took your mother into our home and cared for her meticulously for 6 years until she passed. Back then, Bella was focused on her career. I never let her worry about any of the burdens at home. In this life, because of my intervention, Uncle Samuel never went fishing for others and avoided that fate. He and Auntie Evelyn have remained healthy and alive. You could say Bella's marriage in this life was even more stable than in the last. Theo's family circumstances were much better than mine. He provided a substantial bride price. Their parents were healthy and didn't add any burdens to them. Yet she still managed to make a mess of her marriage. I used to not understand why you were always full of regrets. Regrets in the past life, and still regrets in this one. Theo was your unattainable love, the person you loved for a lifetime. In the past life, you even sacrificed your life for him. But in this life, you had him. Why were you still unsatisfied? Now, I finally understand. Because you are insatiable. You always want what you don't have, are never content with the present, and never cherish those right in front of you. In your heart, only the unattainable is the best. Bella gave a miserable smile and spoke with difficulty. You are right. I deserve this. Someone like me doesn't deserve happiness. This is all my retribution. Jaden, it's a good thing you didn't choose me this time. Seeing her face grow paler and her speech become more labored, I hurriedly called for the doctor. Bella ultimately survived, but she would never walk again, confined to a wheelchair for life. Theo abandoned her and their child. Her parents took her back to their hometown. The two elderly people not only had to care for their daughter, but also raise their grandson. Life was quite hard for them. Not long after, Bella took her own life one night. She left behind a suicide note and a bank card. In the note, she said she didn't want to be a burden to her parents and saw no point in clinging to life. The day I heard the news, I was silent for a long time, then let out a heavy sigh. Someone with your temperament probably isn't grieving for her, right? Chloe asked curiously. I'm sad for her parents, I said. Bella was someone who always knew how to escape. She took the easy way out, but she dumped the responsibility on her parents. It's okay. I can go back with you to visit the elderly couple sometime, she said, pulling me into an embrace. You're so good to me. Of course. You're my husband. Who else should I be good to if not you? She said proudly. Haven't you heard the saying? What saying? Those who are good to their husbands are blessed for a lifetime.